Welcome back to Newslink. Now, the deteriorating condition of South African roads also poses a threat to our economy. The freight industry has experienced hard hits in recent times. So let's speak now to Road Freight Association CEO Gavin Kelly about the economic impact of the lack of road maintenance. Gavin, thank you so much for your time and good morning to you. And that's precisely the question. I mean, the significant and direct impact on the economy, on consumers, on businesses due to a lack of road maintenances. I mean, what does it look like?
Oh, good morning, Tumela, and good morning to all your viewers this morning. I think one needs to take a step back and look at the country at large in terms of what bad roads does to the country. So the first thing, there's obviously road safety, and especially in the rainy season, if you've got potholes or pieces of the road that are not in good condition, then there's a bit of swerving out or you fall into these potholes. And of course, there's then road safety issues. People can be injured, they can be killed, and that's a problem. The second thing is damage to vehicles, whether it's trucks or it's light motor vehicles or buses, doesn't matter. For us, it's about trucks. So those are tires, they're wheels, and tires went up incredibly last year. And we're still struggling with that sort of increase into our operational costs. So it's maintenance of the vehicles, it's ensuring that the lights and the reflectors and the couplings and the hoses all stay in good condition, because you keep hitting potholes or driving along roads that are on bad repair. Then there is a huge impact on the efficiency of freight. So you might have to use a different route. It might take you longer to get there because of the road, so therefore you need to put another vehicle in. And that, all of these things I've mentioned then have as they say, a northwards force or an increase in terms of the cost of logistics. So we start paying more for goods, and we pay more for transport, whether it's a bus or a taxi, because the operators need to look after their vehicles and keep everyone safe in terms of that. And then, of course, the final thing is, and if you look at the visuals now, our infrastructure is crumbling. We don't seem to be able to address matters when they present themselves the first time round. We seem to only get there when it's really bad, and then we've got to start rebuilding roads, not just repairing them or maintaining them. And that has a huge impact on infrastructure, both financial budgets in terms of that and in terms of where we find it as an economy at large.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on that last point, Gavin, because potholes, if we talk about potholes or lack of infrastructure maintenance, that's more the manifestation of a bigger problem. If we're saying our roads are as old as 70 years old, the problem is, why did we allow 70-year-old roads to not be maintained? So in you dissecting the problem or understanding what could be the root problem or the cause, where did South Africa get it all wrong in terms of allowing these roads to get to this point where we have between 4,000 and 6,000 potholes that either emerge or mushroom out of nowhere will have to be fixed just in 30 days?
Well, I think, Tumela, there's probably three major causes why we are where we are. And the first one is that when a road looks good and you don't see a pothole on the surface, everybody thinks the road is fine. But we don't know what's happened underneath the road. We don't know whether water has ingressed or got underneath the surface. And that's a cause for concern, because you see a number of roads where the water drainage system is not working properly. And it doesn't have to be a major road, like a national road. It can be in town, and in actual fact, that's where we struggle a lot with that. So that's the first thing. We see a road, it looks fine, and we think, okay, we don't have to worry about this one. The second factor is, whether we like it or not, there are thousands more vehicles on the road than when those roads were built. And they weren't built for the amount of traffic. We're not talking overloading. We're just talking about the number of vehicles that are on the road. So there's lots more vehicles on the road, and they're wearing the road down. That is just physics, unfortunately. And then finally, we have a lot of roads in our country, like you say, that come from the 50s and the 60s that weren't really built for the masses, the weights. So we had smaller buses, smaller cars, smaller trucks. We've now got far larger vehicles, and those roads are not built, especially underneath, to take that sort of weight. So we need to maintain the roads in terms of ensuring they can take the legal axle masses or the legal weights of the vehicles that use them. Those are really the three big things that has brought us to.
Gavin, what do you think, in my last question to you, what do you think it would take to get South Africa to a point where we have an ideal system in place, roads, well maintained, well, fixed up and repaired, but also a transport system, as you mentioned, some of these roads that were built back in the 50s and 60s were not made for the congestion we see on the roads right now. How do we get to a point where we also see the transport system, like we often hear, in China, in Europe, in London, that the transport system is absolutely seamless? How long do you think it would take us? How would it take us to get there? Can we even get there, do you think?
Well, Tumela, the president has created the Logistics Crisis Committee, which is focused on these very things, on getting the logistics back on track. Because if we don't, and logistics includes the movement of people as well, so I don't want you to forget that.
Yeah.
Keep that in the back of your mind. But in our case, to get goods moving and to get them moving seamlessly. So first of all, and now and then I'll say something that really gets people upset, but we need to fix rail, because rail is just not doing what it needs to do. And it needs to pick up the cargoes that we desperately now need to get out for export, and we need to get off the roads. So what we see happening in the eastern side of the country, in Mpumalanga, the top piece of KwaZulu-Natal, there are trucks using roads that were never built for the types of cargoes in terms of mass and in terms of volume that are moving on those roads. So rail needs to play its role. Secondly, we need to hold somebody accountable who deals with the maintenance of roads. So when we give budget for that, we need to have somebody who's held accountable for not maintaining these roads. And then finally, we need to ensure that we generate revenue, that if we use a road, and tolls is a dirty word, but if we use tolls and we collect tolls on a specific route, that the tolls collected on that route go back to fix that route. They don't go into an endless pot that government can use for anything else.